I'm Aaron Porras, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, the United States slashes over half of its funding to the Palestinians. Germany hunts down Iranian agents suspected of spying on Israelis, and our prayers have finally been answered. The high-speed train between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem is now just weeks away from regular operation. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. Making good on an earlier promise, the Trump administration has now just frozen over half of its funding to the UN's Palestinian Refugee Organization. Though Israeli leaders are hailing this as a bold new approach, both human rights activists and the United Nations warn that it could greatly threaten regional stability, as well as the dignity of Palestinians all over the world.
President Trump first threatened to slash aid to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, or UNRWA, after the Palestinians announced that they'd no longer see the United States as an impartial peace negotiator for the Middle East. That prompted the United States to re-examine its financial aid to the Palestinians, since they refused to come to the negotiating table. Palestinians, however, say that they are being punished for something Trump himself did and accuse him of effectively ending the negotiations with his recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital.
هذا هو الأمر الأساسي التي تتطلع إليه الإدارة الأمريكية. أولا فيما يسمى صفقة القرن هي تأتي في سياق شطب الحقوق الفلسطينية. أعلن الرئيس ترامب عن القدس عاصمة للاحتلال وهو لا يملك هذا الحق، وخارج إطار كل قرارات الشرعية الدولية والقانون الدولي في محاولة شطب القدس أن تكون عاصمة أبدية لدولة فلسطين، وستبقى هذه القدس هي العاصمة لدولة فلسطين.
The PLO also says that Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is more likely the brains behind the United States' latest budget slash. And though the State Department says it is not aimed at punishing anyone, human rights groups says it will devastate the millions of Palestinians who qualify as refugees all over the world, many of whom still live in refugee camps in Lebanon, Jordan, Gaza, and Syria. United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres is especially concerned that this new pressure will escalate the region to new violence, even war.
First of all, UNRWA is not a Palestinian institution. UNRWA is a UN institution created by in 48. If I sorry, no, but I mean in 48 by a UN resolution, and UNRWA is providing vital services to the Palestinian refugee population, both in the occupied territories and in Jordan, in Syria, and in Lebanon. Those services are of extreme importance, not only for the well-being of these populations, and there is a serious humanitarian concern here, but also, in my opinion, and the opinion that is shared by most international observers, including some Israeli ones, it is an important factor of stability.
Prime Minister Netanyahu has been in India now for 4 days, conducting one of the biggest diplomatic missions in Israel's history. A massive delegation of Israeli leaders in business, agriculture, technology, and security are all building new bridges to India as we speak. But, come on, what would a trip to India be without a visit to the amazing Taj Mahal? Check this out.
זה רגע של נחת בביקור מאוד אינטנסיבי. ואני רוצה להודות לחברי, ראש ממשלת הודו, שהוא מאפשר לנו גם את הרגע הזה. בהודו פגשנו הרבה מאוד אהבה לישראל, וכאן הגענו למקדש האהבה, באומנות בלתי נתפסת, עם דברים נצחים, ממש כך.
Netanyahu's whirlwind trip has already brought Israeli-Indian relations to a whole new level, though India actually voted against Israel at a critical UN vote condemning President Trump's Jerusalem decision. Netanyahu believes cooperation with India is more important than disagreements.
What we can do together is shape the future. It's not something that I say offhand. I believe in India deeply. I believe in India because I know your heritage, your culture, your ingenuity, your creativity, your humanity, your passion, which is exemplified by Prime Minister Modi to change the world for the better. We are your partners. And I came here to say today, Prime Minister Modi, thank you for believing in Israel the way we believe in India.
Though it's pretty hard to top the Taj Mahal, Day 4 has already kicked off to a great start. Netanyahu has just toured the home state of Indian Prime Minister Modi shortly after experiencing an 8-kilometer drive of Indian folk artists. But perhaps the most moving experience of the whole trip wasn't for the Prime Minister, but for 11-year-old Moshe Holtzberg. Young Moshe was orphaned when he was 2 after terrorists murdered his parents in a Mumbai Chabad house. Moshe survived the attack but grew up in Israel, and now, for the first time ever, he's back in the Chabad house where his parents were killed on that fateful day. Netanyahu will join young Moshe there tomorrow and unveil a memorial for the 166 victims who were murdered in those terror attacks. Israeli jets have reportedly just attacked a Hezbollah weapons depot in Syria near Damascus. Neither Israel nor the Syrian government has confirmed nor denied these reports, but Syrian rebels say that the airstrikes targeted a military airport and that Israel is likely behind the attack.
This would certainly be in line with what many say is a growing proactive strategy to keep enemies from Israel's borders, specifically Hezbollah terrorists funded by Iranian dollars. Just last week, Israeli jets were reportedly conducting a similar airstrike outside Damascus, targeting a long-range missile depot. Top IDF brass recently convened to discuss the growing threat on Israel's northern border, and Prime Minister Netanyahu has repeatedly promised to make sure that Israel will pursue any means necessary to ensure advanced weapons do not find their way into Hezbollah's hands. If Israel is indeed behind the latest attack, as many suspect, it's certainly proof that Netanyahu is sticking to his words.
Shocking news from Germany. Police are currently conducting a nationwide manhunt for 10 suspected Iranian spies. Most disturbing of all is that reports allege the Iranian agents were in the country specifically to spy on Israeli citizens, as well as Israeli organizations.
German officials are still tight-lipped on the operation, but have confirmed that the suspects are believed to have, quote, spied on institutions and persons in Germany on behalf of an entity associated with Iran, end quote, and that German police have raised several suspects' homes. Israel's ambassador to Germany also confirmed that a security threat for Israelis in Germany has been issued. These police raids have come just 2 weeks after the German government confronted Iran's ambassador about suspected spying on those with ties to Israel, and nearly a year after a German court convicted a man from Pakistan for being an Iranian spy. For now, not much is known about the 10 suspects, but Germany's domestic intelligence forces have green-lighted the manhunt immediately, suggesting a potentially serious degree of urgency. We will keep you updated.
It seems that women's roles in the Israeli Defense Forces is still a very hot topic here in the Holy Land, as some national religious leaders are now calling for IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Eisenkot to be fired over integration of the sexes in all branches of the military. Well, here to dig deeper into this discussion is Rabbi David Fendel, the Dean of the Hesder Yeshiva in Sderot. Thank you very much for coming. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's my pleasure. So, the primary issue is, as I understand it, with women filling combat positions. Why is this such an issue?
The Army is a dream. It's really a dream for generations. And we're so proud to be a major part of it. In another month, about 120 of our guys are going to be entering combat units. The Torah was very, very clear that all of our laws of modesty, they were all mentioned in the Army. Because that's the place where young boys and young girls, it's not the place to be together. And for us to continue to be so motivated and to be so active in the Army, we have to find a solution.
So are you saying that you would prefer women to be away from combat positions and certain positions like that in order to enlist more Haredim and religious, Orthodox members of the military, or for everyone in general?
It's on 3 different levels. Firstly, if there's a dream of having the Haredim, the ultra-Orthodox, you can forget about it. It's not going to happen. Secondly, even in our religious Zionist circles, it can't be together. So we have to create, and there's a lot of work to be done, different units. And it can't be the Givati, Golani, and Tzanchanim. We want our guys to continue to be able to be in those units, and it's not going to work together. It's just impossible to keep the laws of modesty. And we all know that in order to keep strict laws, and strict laws means even if we take the most lenient positions. And on a 3rd level, we're convinced for the entire country that modesty should be kept in the Army, and that a Jewish state should have a higher level of modesty, especially in the Army.
So I'm reminded of the Yom Kippur War for this next question, which, it was a surprise attack on the holiest day of the Jewish year. And it was really secular ideologies of it really doesn't matter what's going on, we need to be on the field, that kind of drove a push to go and be there and be present in the army during that war. So isn't there an idea, isn't there a way to then push that secular ideology in the IDF? Shouldn't it be secular?
We're a Jewish state, a Jewish army, and it didn't begin with secularism. It has a beautiful heritage, beautiful legacy, and I suggest that we continue that legacy. We have to find a common denominator, and we have to find the ways of making the army a place that everybody's going to feel comfortable. And it's not going to happen if there's going to continue a continual pushing of the idea that it has to be together. There was almost...
What about a separate, combat roles where women can be active and then a combat unit where Haredi men are active? Can't we still have separate and,
But that's not what the Army is doing at this point. At this point, the Army is very involved in trying to mix as much as possible in the name of equality, in the name of... And that's a real agenda that we think is foreign to the goals of winning a war and to the goals of creating a cohesive and an army that everybody will feel comfortable to be proud soldiers.
All right, Rabbi David Fendel, thank you very much for coming in and spending some time with us today. Now, the IDF military police have just arrested Oneg Chen Shachar, an enlisted soldier, for incitement to violence. Shachar was distributing flyers at the IDF enlistment center that called for new recruits interested in restoring the national honor to join a special unit and avenge the murder of Rabbi Raziel Shevach. Shevach was killed in a West Bank terror attack last week as he was driving home.
The flyers were emblazoned with the IDF insignia, so people thought that it was a sanctioned mission. It also asked not to share any information with non-military personnel. This incident is seemingly in line with Shachar's intentions since before enlistment, however. In a video posted to YouTube in December, the day before he joined the military, he asserted his reasoning for enlisting, saying, quote, "A Jew and certainly a Jewish soldier is not a rag, and an Arab who tries to harm the people of Israel will simply get a bullet to the head," end quote. He has also called for reinstituting Unit 101, a highly controversial and disbanded special forces team created by Prime Minister Ariel Sharon in the 1950s. Unit 101's tasks were solely focused on reprisal operations against Palestinian terrorists. The IDF, on their part, is coming down on this very seriously, though, stating, quote, "The IDF views harshly and condemns every case of violence and incitement, and emphasizes that any such act will be dealt with severely," end quote. Investigation into the flyers and Oneg Chen Shachar has been initiated.
For years, tourists and Israelis alike have been begging for a quicker way to travel between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. While the government's 8-year plan to make that dream a reality is finally set to deliver, the country's new high-speed train between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem has just made its first test voyage and will be ready for the public by the end of March.
Let me take a second to explain how travel between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem currently works. If you're lucky enough to own a car in Israel, you've got anywhere from a 30-minute drive to a 40-minute drive. But if the bus is your only option, well, first you've got to get to the central bus station with a local line, wait for an inner-city bus, and then take the long ride, which means all in all, you're easily looking at an hour-and-a-half commute. Well, this brand new high-speed train is the first of its kind, chopping down that travel time to a mere 28 minutes. And get this, when the line finally opens on the eve of Passover, the first 3 months are free to anyone with a Rav-Kav bus card. The reality of high-speed travel between these two Israeli hubs is almost too good to be true, and that's because construction crews have been building the line for nearly 8 years now, and as it turns out, they're not even finished. Dubbed the King David Line, this will also be the first intercity train in the country that's fully electric, so it'll save time, it'll save energy, so hurry up and get here already.
From the biggest movie nerds to the average Joe, just about everyone is excited when a new Steven Spielberg film hits theaters. Well, almost everyone. Lebanon briefly banned Steven Spielberg's new film, citing the Oscar-winning director's connection to Israel as a reason, which is odd because Spielberg himself is just Jewish and not Israeli. Lebanon has a long history of banning any and all media that comes from Israel, complicit with the country's overall blacklist of the Jewish state. Lebanese censors even banned the Hollywood hit of the summer Wonder Woman because Gal Gadot is Israeli and served in the IDF. But the ban of Spielberg's newest film, The Post, was a confusing one, and that's because the film takes place in the United States and tells the story of the Washington Post's fight with the Nixon administration to publish the Pentagon Papers. Ironic that Lebanon censors a film about the importance of the free press. But according to Lebanon, they originally banned the film because some of Spielberg's Oscar-winning film Schindler's List was filmed in Israel, But the weird thing is that Lebanon had no problem screening several of Spielberg's other films after Schindler's List, including The Adventures of Tintin, The BFG, and last year's Bridge of Spies. A local Lebanese distributor was even marketing the film for 2 months before the ban was placed, but in a rare move, the Lebanese government has just reversed its ban on the post, which means that in the end, the film will screen in theaters as planned. I guess the combination of Hanks, Spielberg, and Streep was too much for them to turn down. All right, here's a not-so-fun fact. Jewish women with Ashkenazi roots are especially prone to breast cancer because of a mutation in their gene pool that's commonly known as the Jewish gene. Well, for the first time ever, the FDA has just approved a new medical treatment that directly targets the Jewish breast cancer gene, and it may save countless lives.
The Lynparza drug is the first of its kind that targets the breast cancers most commonly found in Ashkenazi Jewish women. The mutation was identified several years ago and proved that women with Ashkenazi roots were 3 times more likely to develop breast cancer. One form of the mutation actually has a devastating 65% chance of cancer in patients. These are awful numbers, but luckily Lynparza directly targets the underlying genetic cause of the cancer and offers a breakthrough new treatment that's less invasive than chemo. Unfortunately, like most cancer medications, the cost is staggering. Treatment will cost users nearly $14,000 a month. The company is aware that this is a cost many will not be able to afford, which is why they're offering financial aid to help with the cost. But even with most insurances, it won't be cheap. Though the drug has been greenlit by the FDA, final numbers on whether it increases survival rates are still yet to come. Trials show that treatment does, however, delay the time before the cancer worsens. Patients on regular chemo treatments had 4 months before the cancer developed, and those on Lynparza saw 7. But when every moment counts in the fight against cancer, this drug could be the breakthrough that thousands have been praying for.
Speaking of cancer patients, an Israeli company called Bubble is now bursting onto the scene with an incredible new innovation that partners real treatment for cancer patients with mobilized virtual reality. Here to tell us more is Bubble co-founder and CEO Naomi Rudich. Thank you so much for coming in today, Naomi.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So tell us a little bit about your product.
So Bubble is a virtual reality platform that we designed to support cancer patients. Just think about that moment that a person actually becomes a patient. They're diagnosed with cancer, and both the emotional and physical struggle now is going to, hit the roof, right?
I'm sure it's overwhelming, yeah.
Think about the stress and the anxiety and the fear.
Of course.
But also, this is actually a diagnosis that the treatments, the necessary required treatments like chemotherapy or radiation therapy, they're actually going to create other physical symptoms and side effects. So you're going to have everything from pain and fatigue and loss of hair that we all kind of see when we encounter that. And what we realize that this is both emotionally driven and physiologically driven, and that if we really want to help cancer patients, we're going to have to take on both of those.
So then how does Bubble address these issues through virtual reality?
So what we know is that our brain learns best through experiences and by focusing on just one thing at a time. And virtual reality is this amazing technology that optimizes both of these. So what we do is we actually disengage you from the world around you, triggering your problems, and we engage you into Bubble, which is designed to actually help you self-heal.
And I see we're getting some screenshots of what you see when you're in the program.
So you're going to encounter a virtual psychologist who's really going to support you, but we're going to actually take you into experiences that are going to cope better with whatever physical distress or emotional distress you're having right now.
Wow.
So that was a good example.
Yeah.
We took on women with cancer who have breast cancer or suffering from hot flashes, and we're putting them in Frosty, which actually literally cools them down, right? So think about a virtual reality.
The brain will make it real.
It's a mind-body experience.
So you go in this, and they're saying, okay, I'm really hot, so I go into Frosty, which is kind of this zone in the VR, and it cools you down.
I mean, think about the kids that are put into virtual reality. They're sitting in a chair, but they think they're on a roller coaster.
I didn't even think about it. This must be incredible for child cancer patients.
We're definitely going to go there at some point.
Wow. So first of all, how were you and your co-founders inspired to create this, and where and when will it be available if it isn't already?
So my partner Limor, it's always personal, right? So my partner Limor is a breast cancer survivor, and I'd say that pretty much this entire vision comes from her personal experiences and those around her. But 1 out of 3 people are going to be diagnosed with cancer. pretty much affecting all of us. Yeah. And in my case, it was my grandmother. And watching her from the sidelines, it was painful. So for us, this is this big vision to really help cancer patients through the entire treatment recovery process. Okay, about where we can get it. Right now, we're going into pilot study. So we're about to head into the United States next month and really going to give frosting to the patients with a lot of patients. But we're also going to Europe. Going to start working on anxiety.
So you're really spreading out.
Yeah, we're spreading out. And once that's done, once we have patients with going through chemotherapy and radiation therapy that are getting frosty and getting bubble into their hands and reducing their anxiety and all that, at that point, we're going to start putting it down to the Play Store.
And we're running out of time, so unfortunately, I just wanted to really quickly mention that the AI of this program is what impressed me most. That it personalizes kind of care through the virtual reality experience.
We have an algorithm, and that's what we do. We make sure that the patient
incredible.
Is treated personally.
It's a really amazing. And Naomi Rudich from Bubble, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. All right, now if you've heard of Nefesh B'Nefesh, which you probably have, you probably know that they're one of the biggest groups helping English-speaking Jews to immigrate to Israel. Well, the nonprofit is now taking the Zionist dream even further by awarding 20 Israeli Olim a cash grant for its first ever initiative for Zionist innovation.
Hundreds of new immigrants, or Olim as they're called in Hebrew, make aliyah, or immigrate, to Israel every year. The transition isn't always easy, but most agree that Israel, the startup nation, is a place where an idea can flourish with a bit of hard work into a life-changing opportunity. And that's exactly why Nefesh B'Nefesh has just granted thousands of dollars to 20 Olim whose innovative ideas are building the state of Israel in whole new ways. One winner, who made aliyah from Kansas, started a beer business out of his home when he saw how expensive bars were in Tel Aviv. Another grant winner is working on a new way to identify learning disabilities in children, and Nefesh B'Nefesh believes it's exactly these kinds of innovations that feeds the very spirit of Zionism. The program managers hope that this batch of grants will begin a long tradition of finding and promoting creative new ways to help build the Jewish state.
Now, this may sound crazy considering her family is one of the most well-known television families in the world today, but Caitlyn Jenner, formerly known as Bruce Jenner, is being awarded for her courage and love for the Holy Land. And ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh is now here with more. Emmanuel?
Thanks, Aaron. Yes, I was definitely taken back by the news that Caitlyn Jenner, the parent of Kendall and Kylie Jenner and step-parent to the entire Kardashian family, is now being crowned champion of Israel and receiving the country's LGBTQ Rights Award. Listen, she's currently one of the most famous transgender women in the world today after coming out on national TV in an interview with Diane Sawyer, discussing her expected transition and struggles. It's only fitting for her to be so supportive of the country who has such a large LGBTQ community. But I'll give you more details in my report about this.
Before transitioning into a woman, Caitlyn Jenner, formerly known as Bruce, won a gold medal in the decathlon at the 1976 Olympic Games in Montreal, and after that became one of the most famous faces in the world after participating in the Keeping Up with the Kardashians reality show. But her biggest claim to fame was from the one-on-one interview with Diane Sawyer, admitting her life's struggle and explaining her decision to transition into a woman. Well, Israel has taken note and awarding the brave reality star for her unwavering support of Israel, on top of her past achievements and current advocate work for the LGBTQ rights. The award ceremony kicks off March 8th at the Jewish Values Award Gala in New York. Jenner was actually invited to be a guest of honor at the Tel Aviv's Pride Week in 2015. A leading Israeli activist wrote on the invite, quote, "When I saw your interview with Diane Sawyer, I was amazed by your bravery and determination to live your life as you choose," end quote. You go, Caitlyn. Keep living your true self and loving the Holy Land.
Now it's time for our Hebrew word of the day. From making art to creating a startup and all the way down to cooking a killer meal, you've got to get inspired first. And that's why today's word is hashra'ah, which means inspiration in Hebrew. The good news is that you can find hashra'ah or inspiration just about anywhere. The bad news is that you can find hashra'ah just about anywhere, but usually only when you're not looking for it. Now maybe a stroll in nature fills you with hashra'ah, or maybe just the busy, noisy city is all the hashra'ah you need. But apparently even a genius like Albert Einstein needed help once in a while to get the wheels turning. Rumor has it he found a ton of hashra'ah for his ideas from good old science fiction books. What gives you hashra'ah? All right, now let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight and tomorrow are both expected to be partly cloudy with a high chance of rain, and there's little difference in temperatures either. Tonight, the low will be about 53 or 12 degrees Celsius, and the high tomorrow should be about 66 or 19 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.44 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv. And please don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News, and of course on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Aaron Porras, and thank you for watching.